Asian markets opened sharply lower on Monday as investors digested the relentless global spread of the coronavirus and turmoil in the oil markets. Tokyo was down 4.7% at mid-morning on Monday, while Hong Kong was down 4.1%. Futures markets showed investors predicting sharp drops in Wall Street and Europe as well. The coronavirus has unnerved investors as it spreads, clouding the prospects for global growth. Italy on Sunday put a broad swath of its industrial northern region under lockdown as the virus has spread, making it one of the biggest sources of confirmed infections outside China. France, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and other countries also took further steps to stop the spread. In the United States, the number of confirmed infections exceeded 500 cases. A top American expert said on Sunday that regional lockdowns could be necessary. A clash over oil between Russia and Saudi Arabia, two major producers, further unnerved investors. As the coronavirus hits demand for fuel, Saudi Arabia slashed its export oil prices over the weekend, starting an apparent price war aimed at Russia. Lower oil prices could help consumers, but it could unsettle countries that depend on oil revenue to prop up their economies. In futures markets, the benchmark price for American and Europe oil supplies tumbled $10, or about 1/4. Investors fled to the safety of the bond market, driving yields lower. In the market for U.S. Treasury bonds, yields broadly fell below the 1% level for both short-term and long-term holdings. The 10-year Treasury bond, which is closely watched, was yielding about 0.5%. In other Asian markets, South Korea was down 3.6%. Shanghai was down 1.5%. Italy reported a huge jump in deaths from the coronavirus on Sunday, a surge of more than 50% from the day before, as it ordered an unprecedented peacetime lockdown of its wealthiest region in a sweeping effort to fight the epidemic. The extraordinary measure restricted movement for a quarter of the country's population. "We are facing an emergency, a national emergency," Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte said in announcing the government decree in a news conference after 2 a.m. The move is tantamount to sacrificing the Italian economy in the short term to save it from the ravages of the virus in the long term. The measures will turn stretches of Italy's wealthy north, including the economic and cultural capital of Milan and landmark tourist destinations such as Venice, into quarantined red zones until at least April 3. They will prevent the free movement of roughly 16 million people. Funerals and cultural events are banned. The decree requires that people keep a distance of at least 1 meter from one another at sporting events, bars, churches, and supermarkets. Get an informed guide to the global outbreak with our daily coronavirus newsletter. The Italian outbreak, the worst outside Asia, has inflicted serious damage on one of Europe's most fragile economies and prompted the closing of Italy's schools. The country's cases nearly tripled from about 2,500 infections on Wednesday to more than 7,375 on Sunday. Deaths rose to 366. More and more countries have adopted or are considering stronger measures to try to keep infected people from entering and to contain outbreaks. On Sunday, Saudi Arabia cut off access to Shiite Muslim towns and villages in the east of the kingdom, cordoning off an area in Qatif Governorate where all 11 of the country's confirmed coronavirus cases have been identified. And local Saudi media reported that the country would temporarily close down all educational institutions and block travel to and from a number of countries in the region. The kingdom had already suspended pilgrimages to the Muslim holy cities of Mecca and Medina. In Iran, which has been hit the hardest in the Middle East, state media reported that all flights to Europe would be suspended indefinitely. The health minister in France, one of Europe's bigger trouble spots, announced a ban on gatherings of more than 1,000 people. Israel, with 39 cases, is considering requiring all Israelis and foreign nationals arriving from abroad to go into self-quarantine, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday. Even as the rate of new infections appeared to taper in China, the number of cases around the world continued to rise on Sunday, with some of the biggest clusters emerging in Europe. Besides the sharp rise in Italy, Germany reported more than 930 cases, Switzerland's total reached 281, and Britain's health department said that 3 people with the virus had died and that the number of cases in the country had jumped to 273 by Sunday. The smallest EU nation, Malta, reported its first confirmed case on Saturday. A 12-year-old girl recently returned from a vacation in northern Italy. Her condition was described as good. The virus has infected more than 109,900 people in at least 97 countries. The Spanish authorities announced on Sunday that 3 more people diagnosed with coronavirus had died in Madrid, raising the number of coronavirus fatalities in the country to 13. There are now over 500 cases, the authorities said. Salvador Illa, Spain's health minister, said at a news conference in Madrid that several cases in Spain were linked to people who recently traveled to Italy. Italy has taken very drastic measures and the most immediate impact is to halt the influx of people from northern Italy, Mr. Illa added. Iraq reported 62 confirmed cases and 4 deaths. Among Iran's more than 6,000 cases number a vice president, 23 members of parliament, the deputy health minister and several other senior officials. The country raised its death toll to 149 from 100 a day earlier, which includes a senior advisor to the country's supreme leader and Fatemeh Rabbar, a member of parliament. Meanwhile, China's new infections from the coronavirus continue to fall. The government on Sunday confirmed 40 new cases of infection from the virus, and another 22 deaths. Of the new infections, 36 were in Hubei, the central Chinese province where the outbreak began. The remaining 4 were people confirmed with the virus after arriving from abroad, meaning that for 2 successive days, at least according to the official data, China has recorded no new locally born infections from the coronavirus outside of Hubei. But overall China remains by far the worst hit country from the epidemic. In total, 80,735 people in China have been infected with the virus, and 3,119 have died from it, according to the official data, which may undercount both figures. The Grand Princess cruise ship that has been held off the coast of California after 21 people on board tested positive for the coronavirus was on its way to dock on Monday at the port of Oakland, the vessel's operator said. More than 3,500 passengers and crew members are aboard, and 19 crew members and 2 passengers have tested positive. After the ship docks, those aboard will be taken to military facilities around the country to be tested and quarantined for 14 days, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. According to a statement from the department, about 1,000 passengers who are California residents are to go to the Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield, California, or the Miramar Naval Air Station in San Diego. Residents of other states will be taken to the Joint Base San Antonio-Lackland in Texas, or Dobbins Air Force Base in Marietta, Gage. The Department of State is working with other countries to repatriate several hundred passengers, according to the statement. Princess Cruises initially said on Saturday that the ship would dock on Sunday. It later amended that statement after what it called a change in planning by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Governor Andrew M. Cuomo criticized the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Sunday for delays in allowing private laboratories in New York State to test for the coronavirus. The number of cases in the state has risen to 106, but more testing is needed for officials to know the true extent of the spread of the virus, the governor said. CDC, wake up, let the states test, let private labs test, let's increase as quickly as possible our testing capacity so we can identify the positive people, Mr. Cuomo said. On Sunday evening, the governor announced that Northwell Health Labs at the Center for Advanced Medicine, a private laboratory on Long Island, had been approved to test under an emergency authorization that would allow 75 to 80 samples a day to be evaluated. In New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio said Sunday that there are now 13 cases of the coronavirus, with hundreds expected in the weeks to come. He said the city will offer no-interest loans to small businesses with fewer than 100 employees that could show a 25% reduction in sales since the coronavirus outbreak and grants of up to $6,000 for businesses with fewer than 5 employees. The mayor urged New Yorkers to avoid crowded subway cars and to use alternative forms of transportation, like biking, if possible. In Scarsdale, in Westchester County, schools will be closed from Monday through March 18 after a faculty member at the district's middle school tested positive for the virus. Columbia University and Barnard College in New York canceled classes Monday and Tuesday and will shift to remote classes the rest of the week after a member of its community was quarantined as a result of exposure to the coronavirus. The Times is publishing many articles daily on the coronavirus that help inform this briefing. Here is a list of articles from the last day or so. International. Europe, with eye on Italy coronavirus quarantine, plans next moves. On day 1 of broad lockdown, a debate arises, can Italians follow the rules? Lessons from the Diamond Princess, as a ship in California aims to do better. As death toll mounts, governments point fingers over coronavirus. EU seeks solidarity as nations restrict medical exports. China may be beating the coronavirus, at a painful cost. National. Not his first epidemic, Dr. Anthony Fauci sticks to the facts. U.S. health experts say stricter measures are required to limit coronavirus's spread. Nursing home hit by coronavirus says 70 workers are sick. Forfeited games and virtual learning, coronavirus shuts down schools. For urban poor, the coronavirus complicates existing health risks. California coronavirus warning, this is not business as usual. Political analysis. For Trump, coronavirus proves to be an enemy he can tweet away. New York area. Columbia University cancels classes after coronavirus exposure. New York in the age of coronavirus. Connecticut governor announces first case of resident. Cuomo attacks CDC. Over delays in testing. Men in surgical masks rob racetrack. Why closing public schools is a last resort. Business. Surge of virus misinformation stumps Facebook and Twitter. The week in business, coronavirus sends markets into a panic. Spiraling virus fears are causing financial carnage. Wall Street had 2 terrible weeks. Here's how 7 traders dealt with it. Fed may need to buy other assets to replenish toolkit, official says. Why the coronavirus could threaten the U.S. economy even more than China's. Climate. Coronavirus could slow efforts to cut airlines' greenhouse gas emissions. Culture. In 1918, it wasn't the coronavirus. It was the flu. South by Southwest is cancelled as coronavirus fears scuttle festival. From coughing fits to closings, cultural world girds for coronavirus. Lifestyle. The handshake is on hold. Coronavirus puts a wrinkle in wedding industry. Sports. An Olympic doctor discusses the effect of the coronavirus on sports. Help. Gyms and coronavirus, what are the risks? How deadly is coronavirus? What we know and what we don't. What should my building be doing to prevent coronavirus? How to help protect a family member in a nursing home. How to quarantine yourself. How to stock a pantry. Reporting was contributed by Carlos Tejeda, Jason Horowitz, Emma Bubala, Ellen Tumpo SKE, Neil Vigdor and Russell Goldman.